As the last rays of sunlight fade behind the hills of medieval England, something profound happens that we in our modern world can barely comprehend. The transition is not merely from light to dark, but from one way of being to another entirely. In the year 1348, as evening approaches a small village nestled in the Cotswolds, the very air seems to thicken with anticipation. There are no electric lights to push back the darkness, no humming refrigerators to mark the passage of time, no glowing screens to tether minds to wakefulness. There is only the dying fire in the hearth, the distant hoot of an owl, and the gentle settling of timber as the day's warmth seeps from the walls. This is a world where sleep is not a single, unbroken journey from sunset to sunrise, but rather a carefully choreographed dance in two movements. It is a world where the night belongs as much to the waking as to the sleeping, where darkness is not an absence to be feared but a presence to be embraced. Let us step into this world together and discover how our ancestors navigated the mysterious realm of medieval sleep. The cottage of Willem the miller sits at the edge of the village, where the cobblestone path gives way to dirt and the cultivated fields meet the wild forest. It is a modest structure, built of timber and daub, with a thatched roof that sags slightly in the middle from years of weather and use. As the sun disappears completely, Willem and his family begin their evening ritual. Inside, the single room that serves as kitchen, workshop, and bedroom is illuminated only by the orange glow of the central hearth. The fire has been carefully banked for the night, its flames reduced to a steady, low burn that will hopefully last until morning. Around this vital source of warmth and light, the family gathers for what they know will be their last few hours of wakefulness before the first sleep takes them. Willem's wife, Margot, moves about the space with practiced efficiency, her wooden clogs clicking softly against the packed earth floor. She has spent the day spinning wool and tending to their small vegetable garden, and her body aches with the honest fatigue of physical labor. Their 3 children, ranging in age from 5 to 14, huddle near the fire, their faces flushed with warmth and drowsiness. The sleeping arrangements in Willem's cottage would seem almost incomprehensible to our modern sensibilities. There is no separate bedroom, no individual beds, no privacy as we understand it. Instead, at one end of the room stands a large, raised platform made of rough-hewn planks. This is where the entire family will sleep, along with their most precious possessions: 2 goats and a prized milk cow. The bedding consists of several large sacks stuffed with straw, which Margot has arranged in a neat row across the platform. Over these she spreads coarse woolen blankets that she has woven herself from the wool of their neighbor's sheep. The straw rustles softly as she fluffs and rearranges it, a sound that has become associated with comfort and rest. But before the family retires, there are evening prayers to be said. Willem gathers his family in a circle around the fire, and in the flickering light, he leads them through the prayers that their priest has taught them. These are not merely religious observances, but protective rituals designed to guard against the dangers that lurk in the darkness. For in the medieval mind, the night is far from empty. It is populated by creatures that exist in the shadowy realm between the physical and the supernatural. There are the night hags who sit upon the chests of sleepers, stealing their breath and bringing terrible dreams. There are the demons who whisper in the ears of the innocent, leading them towards sin and damnation. There are the restless spirits of the dead who wander the earth, seeking resolution for unfinished business. Against these dangers, the medieval Christian has developed an arsenal of protective measures. Willem traces the sign of the cross over each of his children as they settle into the straw. Margot places a small iron knife under their shared pillow, its cold metal believed to repel evil spirits. A bowl of salt sits near the door, its purifying properties thought to create a barrier against malevolent forces. As the family finally settles into their communal bed, the animals arrange themselves at the foot of the platform. The warmth from their bodies rises to mingle with the heat from the humans, creating a shared ecosystem of survival against the cold. The goats nibble quietly on bits of hay, while the cow chews her cud with methodical contentment. This is the beginning of the first sleep. The first sleep of the medieval world is deep and profound, a state that modern sleep researchers have called slow-wave sleep or deep sleep. It is during this period that the body performs its most essential restorative functions. Muscles repair themselves from the day's labor, the immune system strengthens itself against disease, and the mind processes and stores the events and learning of the day. Willem's breathing deepens and slows as he sinks into this state. Beside him, Margot's face relaxes into the peaceful expression of one who has given herself completely to rest. The children, exhausted from a day of helping with chores and playing in the village square, fall asleep almost instantly, their small bodies warm and secure in the nest of straw and wool. The cottage itself seems to settle into sleep as well. The timbers creak softly as they contract in the cooling air. The fire burns lower, its flames dancing more gently now, casting moving shadows on the walls. Outside, the night sounds begin in earnest. The distant howl of a wolf, the scurrying of mice in the thatch, the gentle lowing of cattle in the village pasture. This first sleep typically lasts for 3 to 4 hours, carrying the family from the full darkness of night toward the mysterious hour of midnight. But as that hour approaches, something remarkable begins to happen. Willem is the first to stir. His eyes open slowly, not with the jarring suddenness of someone awakened by an alarm, but with the gentle awareness of someone whose body has completed its first cycle of rest. This is not a disruption of sleep, but rather a natural transition, as much a part of the night as sleeping itself. This is the beginning of the watch. The watch is perhaps the most fascinating aspect of medieval sleep, a period of quiet wakefulness that has been almost entirely lost to the modern world. During this time, which typically lasts 1 to 2 hours, medieval people did not struggle to return to sleep or worry about their lost rest. Instead, they embraced this gentle wakefulness as a natural and beneficial part of the night. Willem rises carefully from the straw, moving slowly to avoid disturbing his still sleeping family. The fire has burned low, and his first task is to add fresh fuel to ensure it will not die before morning. He selects a piece of seasoned oak from the small pile beside the hearth and places it carefully among the glowing embers. The wood catches slowly, sending up a small shower of sparks and filling the room with renewed warmth. In the soft light of the revived fire, Willem settles himself on a 3-legged stool near the hearth. This is his time for reflection, a precious period of solitude in a world where privacy is almost non-existent. He thinks about the day's events, the conversation with his neighbor about the coming harvest, the concern about the strange weather patterns that seem to be affecting the crops, the small joy of watching his youngest daughter learn to help her mother with the spinning. Modern sleep scientists have discovered that the brain produces elevated levels of the hormone prolactin during these periods of night wakefulness. This hormone, associated with feelings of peace and contentment, may explain why medieval accounts of the watch describe it not as a time of anxiety or restlessness, but as a period of profound tranquility and spiritual awareness. After a time, Margot begins to stir as well. This too is natural and expected. She rises quietly and joins her husband near the fire. In the gentle glow, they speak in whispers about the concerns and plans of their daily life. This is perhaps their most intimate time together, free from the demands of work and children, able to connect as man and woman in the quiet sanctuary of the night. They might discuss practical matters, whether to trade their extra grain for cloth at the next market day, concerns about their eldest son's future apprenticeship, plans for repairs needed on the cottage before winter arrives. Or they might speak of more personal things, shared memories of their courtship, quiet acknowledgments of love and partnership, gentle expressions of hopes and dreams for their children's futures. Medieval medical texts, influenced by the classical theories of Greek and Roman physicians, suggested that the period between the first and second sleep was the most fertile time for conception. It was believed that after the first sleep, the body's humors were perfectly balanced, the mind was clear, and the spirit was receptive. Many medieval treatises on health recommended that couples engage in marital relations during this quiet hour, when the body was rested but not yet ready for the deeper sleep to come. The watch is also a time for spiritual contemplation. Both Willem and Margot know the basic prayers that every Christian is expected to recite, and the quiet of the night provides the perfect setting for these devotions. Margot might whisper her way through several Hail Marys, the familiar Latin phrases providing comfort and structure to the quiet time. Willem might reflect on the teachings he has heard from the village priest, contemplating questions of sin and redemption, mortality and eternal life. Sometimes, particularly during the longer winter nights, one or both of them might engage in quiet, practical work that can be done by firelight. Margot might mend a torn garment or continue work on a piece of embroidery. Willem might sharpen his tools for the next day's work or repair a piece of household equipment. These tasks are performed slowly and meditatively, without the urgency that characterizes daytime labor. As the watch continues, other sounds begin to emerge from the darkness outside. There is the distant tolling of the monastery bell, marking the hour for the monks to rise for their midnight prayers. Sometimes there is the sound of footsteps on the village path, perhaps a neighbor also awake during their own watch, or possibly the night watchman making his rounds to ensure the safety of the community. The medieval night is not silent, but it is peaceful in a way that our modern world struggles to comprehend. The sounds are natural and comforting. The wind in the trees, the settling of buildings, the soft sounds of animals in their sleep. There is no traffic, no machinery, no electronic noise to jar the senses or create anxiety. Gradually, as the watch draws to a close, Willem and Margot begin to feel the gentle pull of sleep returning. This is not the heavy exhaustion of the first sleep, but a lighter, more ethereal drowsiness. They bank the fire once more, ensuring it will burn safely through the rest of the night, and return to their bed of straw. As they settle back into the warmth of their bedding, they are joined by their children, who may have stirred slightly during the watch, but have remained essentially asleep throughout. The family arranges itself once more in the communal embrace of shared sleep, the parents' bodies creating a protective barrier around their children, the animals contributing their warmth to the collective comfort. This is the beginning of the second sleep. The second sleep of the medieval night is different from the first in both quality and character. Where the first sleep is deep and restorative, focused on the body's physical needs, the second sleep is the realm of dreams and visions. Medieval people took their dreams very seriously, viewing them not as random neurological firings, but as meaningful communications from the divine realm. As Willem settles into the second sleep, his mind begins to process the events and conversations of the watch. The practical concerns discussed with Margot blend with deeper spiritual reflections, creating the raw material from which dreams are woven. In the medieval understanding, dreams were one of the primary ways that God communicated with ordinary people, providing guidance, warnings, and revelations about the future. This belief in the significance of dreams was not merely popular superstition, but was supported by both religious doctrine and scholarly theory. The church taught that while some dreams might be the result of physical causes such as illness or indigestion, many were divine communications that deserved careful interpretation. Medieval scholars developed complex systems for analyzing and understanding dreams, drawing on biblical examples, classical sources, and their own theological insights. During the second sleep, the family's dreams might range from the mundane to the prophetic. Willem might dream of a conversation with his deceased father, seeking advice about a difficult decision. Margot might have a vision of the Virgin Mary, providing comfort during a time of particular stress or sorrow. The children might dream of saints and angels, their young minds naturally drawn to the colorful stories and images of Christian theology. Some dreams were considered warnings. A dream of a black dog might foretell illness or death. A dream of fire could predict conflict or destruction. A dream of clear, flowing water might promise good fortune and prosperity. Medieval people kept careful track of their dreams, often discussing them with family members, friends, or the village priest to help understand their meaning and significance. The second sleep typically lasted until the first gray light of dawn began to filter through the shutters of the cottage. Unlike the abrupt awakening imposed by modern alarm clocks, the end of medieval sleep was a gradual process, synchronized with the natural rhythms of light and darkness. As the sky begins to lighten, Willem's body naturally begins to emerge from the second sleep. His consciousness returns slowly, like a swimmer rising from deep water toward the surface. He becomes aware first of the warmth of his family around him, then of the soft sounds of awakening animals, and finally of the gradual brightening of the light from the windows. This natural awakening, timed to the sun's return, ensures that the family wakes feeling refreshed and ready for the day ahead. There is no grogginess, no struggle against an artificial schedule, no sense of being torn from necessary rest. Instead, there is the satisfaction of a complete cycle of sleep and wakefulness, perfectly synchronized with the natural world. But the sleep experiences of Willem and his family represent only one layer of medieval society. As we move up the social hierarchy, the patterns remain fundamentally the same, but the details of comfort, privacy, and luxury change dramatically. Let us now visit the chamber of Lord Edmund de Montfort, whose castle overlooks the same valley where Willem's cottage stands. Here, in the heart of a stone fortress that has stood for 2 centuries, the medieval night unfolds with a very different character. Lord Edmund's castle is a testament to both power and paranoia. Its massive walls designed to withstand siege, its towers positioned to provide commanding views of the surrounding countryside. But within these formidable defenses lies a world of relative comfort and luxury that would amaze the simple miller and his family. The Lord's sleeping chamber, known as the Great Chamber, occupies the entire upper floor of the castle's main keep. Unlike the single room where Willem's family huddles together, this space is vast and imposing, its stone walls rising to a vaulted ceiling supported by heavy wooden beams. Tapestries hang from the walls, not only for decoration but also for insulation against the perpetual chill of the stone. At the center of this chamber stands the most magnificent piece of furniture in the entire castle, Lord Edmund's bed. This is not merely a place to sleep, but a statement of wealth, power, and status. The bed frame is constructed from heavy oak, carved with intricate designs that tell the story of the family's noble lineage. For massive posts rise from the corners, each topped with carved finials that reach toward the ceiling. But the true luxury of this bed lies in its textiles. Heavy curtains of deep blue wool, embroidered with gold thread, can be drawn completely around the sleeping area, creating a room within a room. These curtains serve multiple practical purposes. They trap the warmth of the sleepers' bodies, creating a comfortable microclimate within the otherwise cold chamber. They provide privacy for intimate conversations and relations, and they offer protection against drafts, insects, and the supernatural dangers that even the nobility fear during the night hours. The mattress itself is a marvel of medieval technology. Instead of straw, it is stuffed with the down of geese and swans, creating a soft, luxurious sleeping surface that cradles the body in comfort. Over this are laid sheets of fine linen, woven from flax and bleached to a pristine white that demonstrates both wealth and cleanliness. Woolen blankets dyed in rich colors provide additional warmth, while pillows stuffed with more down support the heads of the sleepers. Lord Edmund does not sleep alone in this magnificent bed. Beside him lies Lady Eleanor, his wife of 15 years, whose presence transforms the sleeping chamber into a center of domestic activity. During the day, this room serves as a receiving area for important visitors, a place where the lady of the castle conducts business with stewards and servants, and a workspace where she pursues the refined arts of embroidery and letter writing. But as evening approaches, the chamber undergoes the same transformation that affects every space in the medieval world. The servants who have bustled about during the day withdraw to their own quarters, leaving the lord and lady to prepare for the ritual of sleep. The process of retiring for the night is more complex for the nobility than for the common people. Lord Edmund must be helped out of his elaborate clothing by his personal valet, a trusted servant who has served the family for decades. The layers of clothing are considerable: an outer robe of fine wool, an inner tunic of silk, hose and shoes of soft leather, and various belts and accessories that mark his status and wealth. Lady Eleanor's preparations are even more involved. Her lady-in-waiting, a young woman from a lesser noble family who serves in the castle to learn the ways of courtly life, helps her remove the complex layers of her gown. The process reveals the intricate construction of medieval women's clothing: the tight-fitting bodice, the flowing skirt with its hidden fastenings, the delicate undergarments that provide both modesty and shape. Once prepared for sleep, the lord and lady climb into their magnificent bed and draw the curtains around them. Inside this fabric sanctuary, lit only by a single beeswax candle in a silver holder, they experience a level of privacy and intimacy that is rare in medieval life. Like their humbler counterparts in the village below, Lord Edmund and Lady Eleanor follow the natural rhythm of biphasic sleep. As the evening deepens and the castle settles into quietude, they drift into their first sleep, surrounded by luxury but following the same biological patterns that govern all human rest. The first sleep in the castle is perhaps even deeper than that experienced by the working people of the village. The physical exhaustion may be less, but the mental fatigue of governing an estate, managing complex political relationships, and maintaining one's position in the feudal hierarchy creates its own need for restorative rest. As midnight approaches, the lord begins to stir, but his experience of the watch is colored by the responsibilities and privileges of his position. When he draws back the bed curtains and steps onto the stone floor of his chamber, he enters a world that is still connected to the broader life of the castle and the realm beyond. During his watch, Lord Edmund might rise to consult important documents by candlelight. Unlike Willem, whose concerns center around immediate survival and daily labor, the Lord's midnight contemplations often involve matters of politics, land management, and the complex web of feudal obligations that govern his life. A wooden table near the window holds several important documents: letters from other nobles, reports from his stewards about the management of his lands, and perhaps correspondence from the royal court. The beeswax candle, expensive beyond the dreams of common people, provides a steady, bright light that allows him to read and write during these quiet hours. Sometimes during the watch, Lord Edmund receives visitors. The medieval castle never truly sleeps, and urgent messages may arrive at any hour. A messenger might arrive with news from a distant lord, requiring immediate attention and response. A steward might request an audience to discuss an urgent matter concerning the estate. The captain of the guard might report suspicious activity in the surrounding countryside. These midnight consultations take place in whispered conversations, mindful not to disturb Lady Eleanor's rest. The great stone chamber, designed to withstand siege, also provides excellent acoustics for quiet conversation. The lord can conduct business while remaining within the private sanctuary of his bedchamber, protected by the heavy wooden door and the loyalty of his guards. Lady Eleanor's experience of the watch is different but equally reflective of her station. When she stirs from the first sleep, she might spend her time in prayer, using an elaborately illustrated book of hours that contains the prayers appropriate for each time of day and night. The beautiful illuminated manuscript, created by monks in a distant monastery, represents a fortune in skilled labor and precious materials. Her prayers during the watch often focus on the specific concerns of a noble woman. The health and welfare of her children, who may be away at other castles receiving their education. The complex social relationships that must be maintained with other noble families. The management of the domestic aspects of castle life, and the spiritual welfare of all those who depend upon her family's protection and guidance. Sometimes Lady Eleanor uses the watch for correspondence. She might compose a letter to her sister, married to a lord in a distant county, sharing news and maintaining the family connections that are so crucial to medieval political life. Or she might draft instructions to the head of her household staff, planning the complex logistics required for an upcoming feast or the reception of important guests. The writing materials available to Lady Eleanor represent luxury beyond the imagination of common people. She writes with a quill pen made from the feather of a swan, using ink made from oak galls and iron that has been carefully prepared by the castle's chaplain. The parchment on which she writes is made from the finest sheepskin, scraped and prepared to create a smooth, durable surface that will preserve her words for generations. As the watch draws to a close, the lord and lady return to their bed with a sense of satisfaction that comes from having used the quiet hours productively. Their second sleep, like that of their subjects, is the time of dreams and visions. But for the nobility, dreams carry additional weight and significance. Medieval noble families often employed chaplains or advisors who specialized in the interpretation of dreams. A particularly vivid or unusual dream might be recorded in writing and studied for its possible implications for family affairs, political decisions, or spiritual guidance. Dreams were considered one of the ways that God communicated his will to those in positions of authority, and wise rulers paid careful attention to the nocturnal messages they received. Lord Edmund might dream of military campaigns, seeing visions of battles won or lost, of alliances formed or broken. Lady Eleanor might have prophetic dreams about her children's futures, or receive divine guidance about charitable works she should undertake. These dreams, discussed and analyzed during the following day, might influence important decisions about family strategy, political alliances, or economic investments. The castle awakens not with the sun, as does the village below, but with the sound of the chapel bell calling the household to morning prayers. This ritual beginning to the day reinforces the structured nature of noble life, where even the natural rhythm of sleep and waking is shaped by the formal requirements of Christian devotion and social obligation. But medieval society contained many other groups whose relationship with sleep was shaped by different factors. Perhaps nowhere was this more evident than in the monasteries that dotted the medieval landscape, where the rhythm of prayer and devotion created an entirely unique approach to rest and wakefulness. Brother Thomas of the monastery of St. Bede has known no other life than the one structured around the 8 canonical hours of prayer. Since joining the community as a boy of 12, now 30 years past, his every day and night has been shaped by the sound of bells calling the faithful to worship. The monastery is a world apart from both the village and the castle, a place where temporal concerns are subordinated to the pursuit of spiritual perfection. Here, sleep is not simply a biological necessity or a time for personal reflection, but rather one element in a carefully structured system designed to bring the soul into closer communion with God. The dormitory where Brother Thomas sleeps is a long, narrow hall lined with simple wooden beds. Unlike the communal sleeping arrangements of peasant families or the luxurious privacy of noble chambers, monastic sleeping quarters represent a middle ground, individual but austere, private but communal, comfortable but deliberately humble. Each monk has his own narrow bed, consisting of a wooden frame strung with rope and topped with a thin mattress stuffed with straw. A single rough woolen blanket provides warmth, and a small pillow filled with chaff supports the head. These beds are arranged in 2 rows along the length of the dormitory, with a central aisle providing access and supervision. The monks sleep in their habits, the same coarse woolen robes they wear during the day. This practice serves multiple purposes. It ensures they are always ready to respond to the call to prayer. It reinforces the monastic virtue of simplicity and detachment from worldly concerns. And it provides practical warmth during cold nights in stone buildings that are heated only by fireplaces in the common areas. But the most distinctive aspect of monastic sleep is its fragmentation. Where secular society follows the natural biphasic rhythm of first sleep, watch, and second sleep, monastic life is governed by the divine office, which requires the community to gather for prayer 8 times during each 24-hour period. The night office, called matins, begins at midnight. As Brother Thomas settles into his first sleep after the evening service of Compline, he knows that his rest will be interrupted after only a few hours by the bell summoning the community to the most challenging service of the day. The midnight bell that wakes Brother Thomas is not the gentle, natural stirring experienced by Willem and his family, nor the voluntary wakefulness of Lord Edmund during his watch. Instead, it is an abrupt call to duty that requires immediate response regardless of the body's natural rhythms or desires. Rising from his narrow bed in the cold dormitory, Brother Thomas joins his fellow monks in a silent procession to the abbey church. The building is vast and echoing, its stone columns disappearing into darkness above the small pools of light created by the few lanterns that illuminate the choir stalls. Here, in the profound quiet of the night, the monastic community engages in one of the most hauntingly beautiful expressions of medieval spirituality. The chanting of the psalms at matins has a quality unlike any other form of medieval music. The voices, trained through years of daily practice, weave together in complex harmonies that seem to lift the words from human speech into something approaching the angelic. The psalms selected for matins are particularly appropriate for the midnight hour. They speak of watchfulness, of vigilance against spiritual enemies, of the soul's longing for divine communion in the darkness of earthly existence. As Brother Thomas adds his voice to the ancient words, he participates in a tradition that stretches back through centuries of Christian devotion. After an hour or more of chanting, the community returns to the dormitory for what secular people would recognize as the second sleep. But for the monks, this is merely an interval before the next service. Before dawn, they will be awakened again for lauds, the morning prayer that greets the return of the sun. This fragmented approach to sleep might seem harsh or unnatural, but medieval monastic communities believed it offered spiritual advantages. The interruption of natural sleep rhythms was seen as a form of sacrifice offered to God, a way of demonstrating complete dedication to the spiritual life. The midnight hour of prayer was thought to be particularly powerful, a time when the veil between earth and heaven was thinnest and prayer was most likely to be heard and answered. Modern sleep research has shown that this pattern of interrupted sleep can actually increase the vividness and recall of dreams. For medieval monks, this was seen as a spiritual benefit. The dreams that came during the brief periods of sleep between services were often interpreted as divine communications, providing guidance for personal spiritual development or insight into community concerns. Brother Thomas, like his fellow monks, keeps a careful record of significant dreams. The monastery's library contains numerous accounts of prophetic dreams received by members of the community, dreams that influenced important decisions about land management, charitable works, or spiritual practices. The monastic approach to sleep also reflects a sophisticated understanding of the relationship between physical discipline and spiritual development. By willingly accepting a pattern of sleep that prioritizes spiritual obligations over physical comfort, the monks demonstrate their commitment to placing eternal concerns above temporal ones. Yet, even within this highly structured environment, individual differences in sleep patterns were recognized and accommodated when possible. Elderly monks, whose bodies could no longer sustain the rigorous schedule, might be excused from some of the night services. Monks who were ill were allowed to rest in the infirmary, where the schedule was relaxed to promote healing. The monastic rule, for all its emphasis on discipline and uniformity, was tempered by practical wisdom about human needs and limitations. As dawn approaches and the bell rings for lauds, Brother Thomas rises once more from his brief sleep. The service that greets the morning is different in character from the midnight vigil. Where matins emphasized watchfulness and spiritual warfare, lauds celebrates the triumph of light over darkness, the resurrection of Christ symbolized by the sun's return. After lauds, the monastic day begins in earnest, but the pattern of interrupted sleep has profound effects on the rhythm of monastic life. The brief periods of rest between services create a different relationship with consciousness and awareness than the long, unbroken sleep of secular society. Monks often report a heightened sensitivity to spiritual realities, an increased awareness of divine presence that they attribute partly to this unique pattern of sleep and waking. The medieval world contained many other variations on the basic pattern of biphasic sleep, each adapted to the specific needs and circumstances of different occupations and social groups. In the towns and cities that were beginning to grow and flourish during the later Middle Ages, new patterns of work and rest were emerging that would eventually challenge the ancient rhythm of sleep. Master Geoffrey the goldsmith lives and works in the bustling city of London, where the narrow streets echo with the sounds of commerce and craft. His workshop, located on the ground floor of his three-story house, is filled with the tools and materials of his trade: hammers and chisels, crucibles and bellows, and most precious of all, small quantities of gold and silver that he transforms into jewelry, decorative objects, and religious artifacts. The goldsmith's relationship with sleep is shaped by the unique demands of his profession. Unlike the agricultural work that governs the lives of most medieval people, Geoffrey's craft can be performed by artificial light, allowing him to extend his working hours beyond the natural limits of daylight. The valuable materials he works with also create security concerns that affect his sleeping arrangements. Geoffrey's house reflects the growing prosperity of the medieval merchant class. The ground floor serves as his workshop and shop, where customers come to commission work or purchase finished pieces. The second floor contains the family's living quarters, a hall for dining and entertaining, a smaller chamber for Geoffrey and his wife Margaret, and a loft where their apprentices and servants sleep. The goldsmith's bedchamber represents a middle ground between the luxury of the nobility and the simplicity of the peasantry. The bed is substantial and well-made, with a wooden frame and a mattress stuffed with wool rather than straw. Linen sheets and woolen blankets provide comfort, while bed curtains, though not as elaborate as those found in noble houses, offer privacy and warmth. But Geoffrey's sleep is complicated by concerns that trouble few others in medieval society. The valuable materials in his workshop below make his house a target for thieves, requiring constant vigilance. The processes involved in metalworking often produce toxic fumes that can affect health and sleep quality. The irregular demands of wealthy clients mean that his schedule is less predictable than that of farmers or even nobles. During his watch period, Geoffrey often finds himself listening for unusual sounds that might indicate attempted burglary. His workshop contains not only finished pieces but also raw materials and specialized tools that would be valuable to thieves. The medieval city, with its narrow streets and limited law enforcement, offers many opportunities for criminal activity under cover of darkness. Margaret shares these concerns, and their midnight conversations often focus on practical matters of security and business. They might discuss whether to accept a particularly large commission that would require keeping valuable materials in the house, or debate the trustworthiness of a new apprentice who will have access to the workshop. The goldsmith's craft also creates unique health challenges that affect sleep. The heating of metals produces fumes that can cause respiratory problems, while the detailed nature of the work strains the eyes and back. Geoffrey often experiences aches and pains that make comfortable sleep difficult, and Margaret has become skilled in preparing herbal remedies to help her husband rest. Despite these challenges, the goldsmith's family enjoys certain advantages in their approach to sleep. Their urban location gives them access to a wider variety of goods and services than would be available to rural families. They can afford beeswax candles for light during the watch period, spices and herbs for cooking and medicine, and better quality bedding and clothing. The presence of apprentices and servants in the household also affects the family's sleep patterns. Young men learning the goldsmith's trade sleep in the loft above the family quarters, and their movements and conversations sometimes disturb the master's rest. Managing this small household staff requires careful attention to schedules and expectations, ensuring that everyone can get adequate rest while maintaining the security and productivity of the business. Geoffrey's experience illustrates how the growth of medieval cities and the development of specialized crafts were beginning to challenge the ancient patterns of sleep and work. While he and his family still follow the basic biphasic rhythm that governs most medieval sleep, the demands of urban commercial life create variations and complications that point toward the more complex relationship between work and rest that will characterize later historical periods. The medieval approach to sleep was also deeply influenced by medical theories inherited from classical antiquity and developed by medieval scholars and physicians. These theories, while often inaccurate by modern standards, provided a framework for understanding the role of sleep in maintaining health and achieving spiritual and intellectual development. Dame Alicia, the wife of a prosperous merchant in the city of York, has access to medical knowledge and advice that would be unimaginable to most medieval people. Her husband's wealth allows the family to employ a physician trained at the University of Paris, one of the leading centers of medieval medical education. Master Robert the physician brings to his practice a sophisticated understanding of sleep based on the medical theories of ancient Greece and Rome, filtered through centuries of Islamic scholarship and adapted to Christian thought. His approach to sleep and health reflects the medieval belief that the human body contains four fundamental substances called humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. According to this theory, health depends on maintaining the proper balance between these humors, and sleep plays a crucial role in this process. During the night, the body's internal heat, generated by the heart, works to digest food and distribute nourishment throughout the body. The quality and timing of sleep directly affects this digestive process and the overall balance of the humors. Master Robert advises Dame Alicia about the proper preparation for sleep to ensure optimal health. The evening meal should be light and easily digestible, consumed several hours before retiring to allow the stomach to empty. Heavy, rich foods should be avoided, as they can produce excessive heat and disturb the natural cooling process that occurs during sleep. The position of the body during sleep is also considered important. The medieval medical texts recommend sleeping on the right side to facilitate digestion, as this position was thought to allow the stomach to empty more efficiently. Sleeping on the back was discouraged, as it was believed to cause nightmares and disturb the natural flow of humors through the body. The quality of air in the sleeping chamber is another concern addressed by medieval medicine. Windows should be closed during the night to prevent the entry of bad air, which was thought to carry disease and disturb sleep. However, the chamber should not be completely sealed, as some circulation of air is necessary to prevent the accumulation of harmful vapors from the sleeper's breath. Master Robert also provides guidance about the proper duration and timing of sleep. The ideal amount varies according to age, constitution, and season. Young people require more sleep than adults, while elderly individuals need less. Those with a warm, moist constitution can tolerate longer sleep than those who are naturally cold and dry. Winter nights naturally call for more sleep than the shorter nights of summer. The medical approach to dreams is equally sophisticated. Master Robert distinguishes between different types of dreams based on their causes and significance. Dreams caused by physical factors such as indigestion or illness are considered meaningless for prediction or spiritual guidance. However, dreams that arise from the natural movement of humors in a healthy body, or those that result from divine inspiration, may contain important messages. Dame Alicia keeps a careful record of her dreams, noting their content and the circumstances under which they occur. She shares significant dreams with Master Robert, who helps her interpret their meaning according to both medical theory and Christian doctrine. This process of dream interpretation serves multiple purposes. It provides insight into her physical health, offers spiritual guidance for important decisions, and satisfies the medieval fascination with the mysterious realm of sleep and dreams. The medical approach to sleep also recognizes the importance of emotional and mental preparation for rest. Master Robert advises Dame Alicia to spend the evening hours in peaceful, pleasant activities that will promote tranquil sleep. Reading devotional literature, engaging in quiet conversation with family members, or listening to gentle music are all recommended as ways to prepare the mind for rest. Anger, worry, or intense intellectual activity before bedtime are discouraged, as they are thought to heat the brain and disturb the natural cooling that should occur during sleep. The medieval understanding of the relationship between mental state and sleep quality, while based on incorrect theories about bodily function, contains insights that modern sleep science has confirmed. This sophisticated medical approach to sleep was available only to the wealthy urban elite who could afford professional medical care. For most medieval people, sleep medicine consisted of folk remedies passed down through generations, herbal preparations made by local wise women, and religious practices designed to ensure peaceful rest and protection from harm. The folk medicine of medieval sleep drew on centuries of accumulated wisdom about herbs, rituals, and practices that promoted good rest. Village-wise women knew which plants could induce drowsiness, which charms could protect against nightmares, and which practices could help ensure restful, restorative sleep. Elena the herbalist serves several small villages in the countryside north of Canterbury. Her knowledge comes not from university training but from a lifetime of observation, experimentation, and learning from older practitioners. Her approach to sleep and its problems reflects the practical, empirical wisdom of folk medicine. For those who have difficulty falling asleep, Elena recommends teas made from chamomile, lavender, or valerian root. These herbs, gathered at specific times and prepared according to traditional methods, have genuine sedative properties that modern pharmacology has confirmed. She also prescribes warm baths infused with relaxing herbs, gentle massage with oils scented with rosemary or mint, and dietary adjustments that promote natural drowsiness. Elena's knowledge extends beyond simple remedies to include complex understanding of how different factors affect sleep quality. She knows that the phases of the moon influence sleep patterns, with many people experiencing more restless nights during the full moon. She understands how seasonal changes affect the body's need for rest, recommending longer sleep during the dark winter months and lighter sleep during the bright summer nights. For those troubled by nightmares or disturbing dreams, Elena offers both herbal and spiritual remedies. A small pillow filled with dried vervain and placed under the head is thought to promote peaceful dreams. A piece of iron placed under the bed repels evil spirits that might disturb sleep. Specific prayers recited before retiring can invoke divine protection against the supernatural dangers that lurk in the darkness. Elena also treats the physical problems that can interfere with sleep. For those suffering from aching joints that make rest uncomfortable, she prepares ointments from willow bark and other pain-relieving plants. For respiratory problems that cause breathing difficulties during the night, she recommends steam inhalations and herbal preparations that clear the lungs and airways. The wise woman's approach to sleep reflects a holistic understanding of health that considers the whole person rather than individual symptoms. She recognizes that sleep problems often arise from underlying imbalances in physical health, emotional well-being, or spiritual state. Her treatments address not just the immediate symptom of poor sleep, but the broader conditions that contribute to the problem. Elena's services are particularly valued by women experiencing the hormonal changes associated with pregnancy, childbirth, and aging. She knows which herbs can safely be used during pregnancy to promote restful sleep without harming the developing child. She understands how the demands of caring for infants affect mothers' sleep patterns and offers practical advice for managing the exhaustion that often accompanies early parenthood. For elderly villagers whose changing bodies no longer follow the natural rhythm of biphasic sleep, Elena provides gentle remedies that work with the aging process rather than against it. She recommends afternoon naps to supplement shorter nighttime sleep, herbal preparations that ease the aches and pains that can interfere with rest, and dietary adjustments that support the changing nutritional needs of older bodies. The herbalist's knowledge is passed down through a network of women who serve as informal healthcare providers in rural communities. This tradition of female healers represents one of the few areas where medieval women could exercise professional authority and command respect for specialized knowledge. Elena learned her craft from her grandmother and has already begun training a young woman from the village to carry on the tradition. This folk medicine approach to sleep coexists with the formal medical theories practiced by university-trained physicians, but it serves a much broader segment of the medieval population. While Dame Alicia in York can afford the services of Master Robert, Elena's patients are the common farmers, craftsmen, and laborers who make up the vast majority of medieval society. The integration of folk medicine with religious practice is particularly evident in the realm of sleep and dreams. Elena's remedies often include prayers and ritual elements that invoke divine protection and blessing. She knows the proper saints to petition for peaceful sleep, the correct prayers to recite for protection against nightmares, and the religious observances that can help ensure spiritual as well as physical rest. This blending of medical, spiritual, and magical elements reflects the medieval worldview in which all aspects of existence are interconnected. Sleep is not merely a biological function, but a spiritual state that affects the soul as well as the body. Dreams are not random mental events, but potential communications from the divine realm that deserve serious attention and interpretation. As we move through the different layers of medieval society, from peasant cottage to noble castle to monastic cell, we see how the fundamental pattern of biphasic sleep remains constant while adapting to different circumstances, needs, and beliefs. This flexibility suggests that the medieval approach to sleep was based on deep understanding of human nature and biological rhythms, even though that understanding was expressed through the scientific and religious concepts available at the time. The seasonal variations in medieval sleep patterns provide another fascinating dimension to explore. The agricultural calendar that governed most medieval lives created dramatic differences in the rhythm of work and rest throughout the year, requiring constant adaptation in sleep schedules and practices. Brother Marcus, a monk at the rural monastery of Saint Benedict, experiences these seasonal changes more intensely than most people. The monastic community's commitment to maintaining the 8 daily prayer services throughout the year means that the timing of sleep must constantly adjust to the changing length of days and nights. During the long winter nights, when darkness falls by 4 in the afternoon and doesn't lift until 8 in the morning, the time between Compline and Matin stretches to nearly 8 hours. This extended period allows for a more natural rhythm of first sleep, watch, and second sleep, though the midnight call to prayer still interrupts the natural pattern. Brother Marcus finds these winter nights conducive to deep spiritual reflection during the watch period. The monastery's library, heated by a small brazier, becomes a refuge where he can read and study by candlelight during the quiet hours between sleeps. The long darkness seems to encourage inward contemplation, and many monks report receiving their most profound spiritual insights during the extended winter watches. The monastery's winter sleep schedule also accommodates the increased need for rest that comes with cold weather and limited daylight. The community retires earlier and rises later, though the fixed timing of the prayer services means that the total amount of sleep varies with the season. The monks accept this variation as part of the natural rhythm ordained by divine providence. Spring brings dramatic changes to the monastic sleep schedule. As the days lengthen and the time between Compline and Matins shrinks, the natural biphasic pattern becomes compressed. The first sleep may last only 2 hours before the midnight bell, leaving barely enough time for deep rest before the call to prayer. Brother Marcus adapts to these changes by adjusting his evening routine. During the short spring and summer nights, he retires immediately after Compline, using the brief time available for sleep as efficiently as possible. The watch period between Matins and Lauds becomes more important during these seasons, providing a longer stretch of rest before the day's activities begin. The monastery's summer schedule reflects the practical demands of agricultural work that supports the community. Many monks work in the fields during the long summer days, and their sleep needs are shaped by the physical exhaustion of outdoor labor. The brief summer nights require careful time management to ensure adequate rest while maintaining the full schedule of prayer services. Brother Marcus finds the summer nights challenging but spiritually rewarding. The shortened sleep periods seem to heighten his awareness during prayer, and the vivid dreams that come during brief, intense sleep periods often provide material for meditation and theological reflection. The autumn months bring a gradual return to the longer nights and extended sleep periods of winter. This transition period is often marked by increased energy and productivity as the community prepares for the coming winter months. The harvest season requires additional work, but the lengthening nights provide more time for the restorative sleep needed to sustain intensive physical labor. These seasonal variations in sleep patterns extend far beyond the monastery walls to affect all levels of medieval society. Peasant families adjust their sleep schedules to match the demands of agricultural work, sleeping longer during the winter months when outdoor work is limited and rising earlier during the busy seasons of planting and harvest. The seasonal approach to sleep reflects a sophisticated understanding of the relationship between human biology and natural rhythms. Modern research has confirmed that human sleep needs do vary with seasonal changes in light and temperature, and that our circadian rhythms naturally adjust to the changing length of days throughout the year. Medieval people were more closely attuned to these natural variations because their lives were less insulated from seasonal changes. Without electric lighting to extend the day or central heating to moderate temperature variations, they experienced the full impact of seasonal cycles on their daily rhythms and sleep patterns. The practical wisdom embedded in medieval seasonal sleep practices offers insights that remain relevant today. The understanding that longer winter nights call for more sleep, that spring's energy surge may require less rest, and that autumn's preparation phase demands adequate recovery time reflects biological truths that our artificially lit, climate-controlled modern world often obscures. The medieval relationship between food and sleep provides another rich area for exploration. The timing, composition, and quantity of meals had direct effects on sleep quality and patterns, leading to sophisticated understanding of how diet affects rest. Dame Margaret, the wife of a prosperous wool merchant in the town of Exeter, has access to a wider variety of foods than most medieval people, and her experience illustrates how the wealthy approached the relationship between eating and sleeping. Medieval medical theory held that proper digestion was essential for healthy sleep, and that the timing of meals relative to bedtime could significantly affect both sleep quality and overall health. Dame Margaret follows the advice of learned physicians who recommend that the evening meal be consumed at least 3 hours before retiring, allowing sufficient time for initial digestion before sleep begins. The composition of the evening meal is carefully considered to promote restful sleep. Heavy, rich foods are avoided in favor of lighter fare that will not overburden the digestive system during the night. Fish, eggs, and mild vegetables are preferred over red meat, strong spices, or rich sauces that might generate excessive heat in the body and disturb sleep. Wine presents a particular challenge in medieval sleep management. While a small amount of good wine is considered beneficial for relaxation and digestion, excessive consumption is known to disturb sleep quality and produce unpleasant dreams. Dame Margaret typically enjoys a single cup of diluted wine with her evening meal, but avoids drinking closer to bedtime. The medieval understanding of how different foods affect sleep was based on the theory of humors and the belief that all foods possess inherent qualities of hot, cold, wet, or dry. Foods that were considered hot in nature, such as garlic, onions, and strong spices, were thought to stimulate the brain and interfere with sleep. Cold foods like lettuce, cucumbers, and most fruits were believed to promote cooling and relaxation conducive to rest. Dame Margaret's cook is skilled in preparing evening meals that balance these theoretical properties to promote peaceful sleep. A typical dinner might include poached fish seasoned with mild herbs, steamed vegetables dressed with a light vinegar sauce, and bread made from fine wheat flour. For dessert, she might enjoy cooked pears flavored with honey and ginger, a combination thought to aid digestion while providing gentle warmth. The timing of breakfast also affects sleep patterns in the medieval world. Unlike modern practice, the first meal of the day is typically delayed until several hours after waking, allowing the body to complete the digestive processes that continue during sleep. This extended fasting period from the evening meal to the late morning breakfast is believed to cleanse the system and prepare it for the day's activities. Dame Margaret's breakfast, when it finally arrives around 10 in the morning, is substantial but carefully chosen to provide energy without disturbing the natural rhythms established during the night. Bread, cheese, ale, and perhaps some fresh fruit provide nourishment while maintaining the digestive balance achieved through proper sleep. The relationship between fasting and sleep is particularly important in medieval religious practice. The Church requires regular fasting periods throughout the year, and these dietary restrictions have direct effects on sleep patterns and dream experiences. Many medieval people report more vivid dreams during fasting periods, which are often interpreted as increased spiritual sensitivity resulting from the purification of the body. Dame Margaret observes the major fasting periods of Lent, Advent, and the various saints' days scattered throughout the year. During these times, her evening meals become even simpler and lighter, consisting perhaps of bread, vegetables, and watered wine. The hunger that sometimes accompanies these fasts is seen not as a hardship, but as a spiritual discipline that can enhance prayer and promote meaningful dreams. The integration of dietary practice with sleep management reflects the holistic approach that characterizes medieval healthcare. Rather than treating sleep as an isolated function, medieval people understood it as part of a complex system that includes digestion, spiritual practice, physical health, and mental well-being. This comprehensive understanding led to sophisticated practices for optimizing sleep through careful attention to diet, timing, and preparation. Modern research has confirmed many of the insights embedded in medieval sleep practices, including the importance of meal timing, the effects of different foods on sleep quality, and the relationship between fasting and dream activity. The social dimensions of medieval sleep provide yet another fascinating perspective on this lost world. Sleep was rarely a solitary experience, but rather a communal activity that reinforced social bonds and reflected social hierarchies. In the household of Sir William de Clare, a knight who holds lands in both England and Normandy, the sleeping arrangements reflect the complex social relationships that characterize feudal society. The household includes not only the knight's immediate family, but also his retainers, servants, visitors, and various dependents who look to him for protection and support. The Great Hall of Sir William's Manor House serves multiple functions throughout the day and night. During daylight hours, it is the center of business activity where the knight meets with his stewards, receives petitions from his tenants, and conducts the administrative work required to manage his estates. In the evening, it becomes the dining room where the household gathers for the main meal of the day. But when night falls, the Great Hall undergoes another transformation, becoming a dormitory for many members of the household. Servants, retainers, and visitors of lesser status spread their bedding on the rushes that cover the floor, creating a communal sleeping space that would seem chaotic and uncomfortable to modern sensibilities. This arrangement serves important social and practical purposes. In an age before police forces or formal security systems, the presence of many people in the hall provides protection against thieves and other dangers. The communal sleeping also reinforces the social bonds that hold the feudal household together, creating shared experiences that strengthen loyalty and mutual dependence. The sleeping arrangements in the hall follow strict social protocols. Those of higher status sleep closer to the Lord's private chambers, while those of lower rank bed down near the main entrance. Men and women sleep in separate areas, with families grouped together when possible. Visitors are assigned places according to their social standing and relationship to the host family. Sir William and his lady retire to their private chamber, but even their more privileged sleeping arrangements are shaped by social considerations. Important guests may be invited to share the chamber, an honor that demonstrates special favor and creates obligations of loyalty and service. The night squires and pages sleep on pallets in an antechamber, ready to respond to their master's needs during the night. The communal nature of medieval sleep created unique challenges and opportunities. Privacy was minimal, requiring careful management of personal relationships and intimate activities. Conflicts between individuals had to be resolved before bedtime to prevent disruption of the household's rest. The close quarters also facilitated the spread of information, gossip, and sometimes disease throughout the community. Yet this communal sleeping also provided important benefits. In an era of limited heating, the shared body warmth helped everyone stay comfortable during cold nights. The presence of many people provided security and comfort, particularly during times of political uncertainty or external threats. The shared experience of sleep and dreams created common bonds that strengthened community relationships. The social aspects of medieval sleep extended beyond individual households to encompass entire communities. Villages often organized watch systems where men took turns staying awake during the night to guard against thieves, wolves, or enemy raiders. These community watches created additional variations in sleep patterns while providing essential security for rural populations. The medieval understanding of sleep as a social rather than individual activity offers interesting contrasts to modern practices. Our emphasis on private bedrooms, individual schedules, and personal sleep optimization reflects very different values and living conditions than those that shaped medieval society. The communal approach to sleep in medieval times also created unique opportunities for education and cultural transmission. Stories, songs, and oral traditions were often shared during the quiet hours before sleep or during periods of wakefulness in the middle of the night. Children learned about their family history, community values, and cultural practices through bedtime conversations that took place in the communal sleeping spaces. Dame Eleanor, the mistress of Sir William's household, takes particular responsibility for managing the social dynamics of communal sleep. She ensures that visitors are properly accommodated according to their status, that conflicts between household members are resolved before bedtime, and that the various practical needs of the sleeping community are met. Her management of household sleep extends to coordination with the kitchen staff to ensure that warming drinks are available for those who wake during the night, that chamber pots are properly maintained and emptied, and that the rushes on the floor are regularly changed to maintain cleanliness and comfort. Dame Eleanor also oversees the seasonal adjustments required for communal sleeping. During the cold winter months, additional braziers are placed in the hall to provide warmth for the many people sleeping there. Extra blankets and cloaks are distributed to ensure everyone has adequate covering. In the summer, windows and doors are opened to provide ventilation for the crowded sleeping space. The social management of medieval sleep required sophisticated understanding of human psychology and group dynamics. Dame Eleanor must balance the needs of individuals against the requirements of the community, resolve conflicts that could disrupt everyone's rest, and maintain the social hierarchies that give structure to household relationships. Her success in managing these complex social arrangements directly affects the well-being and productivity of the entire household. Poor sleep resulting from social conflicts, inadequate accommodation, or failure to address practical needs could undermine the military effectiveness, economic productivity, and social harmony that the feudal system requires. The medieval approach to communal sleep created a very different relationship between public and private life than exists in modern society. Personal intimacy had to be carefully managed within the constraints of shared sleeping spaces, leading to sophisticated codes of behavior and social understanding. Married couples developed subtle ways to maintain their relationship within the constraints of communal living. Private conversations might take place during the watch period when others were sleeping, or intimate communications might be conducted through coded gestures and glances during the day. The medieval understanding of marriage as both a personal and social institution was reflected in the way that intimate relationships were integrated into communal living arrangements. Children growing up in these communal sleeping environments learned different lessons about privacy, social relationships, and individual needs than their modern counterparts. They developed skills in cooperative living, conflict resolution, and social awareness that were essential for survival in a world where individual autonomy was limited and community cooperation was necessary for prosperity and security. The seasonal and religious cycles that governed medieval life also affected the social aspects of sleep. During major religious festivals, household sleeping arrangements might be adjusted to accommodate additional guests and visitors. The Christmas season, Easter celebrations, and harvest festivals all required modifications to normal sleeping patterns as communities came together for extended celebrations. These festival periods often included special traditions related to sleep and dreams. Christmas Eve vigils, Easter morning celebrations, and harvest festivals all involved alterations to normal sleep schedules that created shared experiences and strengthened community bonds. The integration of religious observance with sleep patterns reinforced the medieval understanding of rest as a spiritual as well as physical activity. The role of storytelling in medieval sleep culture deserves special attention. In an age before widespread literacy, oral traditions played a crucial role in education, entertainment, and cultural preservation. The quiet hours before sleep and during the watch period provided ideal opportunities for storytelling that served multiple functions in medieval society. Master John the Miller, whose family we encountered earlier in our journey through medieval sleep, serves as the community's unofficial storyteller during the long winter evenings. After the family has settled into their straw bedding and the fire has been banked for the night, John often shares tales that have been passed down through generations of his family. These stories serve multiple purposes in the context of medieval sleep culture. They provide entertainment during the quiet hours when other activities are difficult or impossible. They preserve historical memory and cultural values, passing important lessons from one generation to the next. They also serve a practical function in helping family members transition from wakefulness to sleep through the soothing rhythm of familiar narratives. The stories John tells range from religious tales about saints and martyrs to folk stories about clever peasants outwitting their social superiors. Adventure stories about knights and battles, romantic tales about courtly love, and cautionary stories about the consequences of sin and virtue all find their place in the repertoire of bedtime narratives. The religious stories often focus on themes particularly appropriate for the nighttime hours. Tales of saints who maintained vigils of prayer, stories about divine protection during times of danger, and narratives about the triumph of good over evil all help create a spiritual atmosphere conducive to peaceful sleep. The folk tales and adventure stories serve different functions, providing excitement and entertainment while also conveying important cultural values. Stories about loyal retainers who serve their lords faithfully, clever women who solve difficult problems, and honest workers who are rewarded for their virtue all reinforce the social and moral principles that govern medieval society. Master John's storytelling also serves educational purposes, particularly for the children in his household. Through the stories, young people learn about their cultural heritage, the proper behavior expected of various social classes, and the history of their community and region. The timing and content of these stories are carefully chosen to promote peaceful sleep and positive dreams. John avoids tales that might frighten the children or create anxiety about the dangers that lurk in the darkness. Instead, he selects narratives that end on notes of triumph, redemption, or divine protection, creating a positive emotional atmosphere as the family drifts towards sleep. The rhythm and cadence of John's storytelling also serve important functions in the transition to sleep. His voice gradually becomes softer and more soothing as the story progresses, helping to calm the listeners' minds and prepare them for rest. The familiar patterns of traditional stories provide comfort and security, creating a sense of continuity and stability that promotes peaceful sleep. John's wife, Agnes, also contributes to the household storytelling tradition, though her narratives often focus on different themes and serve different purposes. Her stories frequently center on domestic wisdom, featuring clever housewives who manage difficult situations, mothers who protect their children through wit and determination, and women who demonstrate virtue and faith in challenging circumstances. Agnes's stories often include practical information woven into entertaining narratives. A tale about a wise woman who prepares for winter might include details about food preservation, herbal remedies, or household management that the listeners can apply in their own lives. A story about a mother protecting her family during a siege might convey important information about emergency preparedness and community cooperation. The seasonal cycle influences the choice of stories told during bedtime hours. Winter tales often focus on themes of survival, endurance, and hope for spring's return. Stories about communities pulling together during hard times, individuals who maintain faith during dark periods, and the promise of renewal and rebirth help families cope with the challenges of the cold season. Spring stories celebrate themes of renewal, growth, and new beginnings. Tales about successful plantings, fortunate marriages, and the triumph of life over death reflect the optimism and energy that accompany the return of warmer weather and longer days. Summer narratives often feature adventure and travel, reflecting the season when medieval people were most likely to journey beyond their immediate communities. Stories about pilgrims reaching their destinations, merchants completing successful trading expeditions, and knights achieving great deeds in distant lands capture the spirit of seasonal mobility and opportunity. Autumn stories focus on themes of harvest, preparation, and reflection. Tales about successful harvests, wise preparation for winter, and the satisfaction of hard work completed help families process the experiences of the growing season and prepare mentally for the coming winter months. The influence of these bedtime stories extends far beyond their immediate entertainment value. Modern researchers have discovered that the stories we hear before sleep can significantly influence the content and emotional tone of our dreams. Medieval people, though they lacked scientific understanding of this phenomenon, seem to intuitively grasp the connection between bedtime narratives and dream experiences. John and Agnes carefully select stories that they hope will promote positive, peaceful dreams for their family members. Tales of divine protection, successful endeavors, and happy endings create a mental atmosphere that tends to generate comforting and encouraging dreams. The avoidance of frightening or disturbing stories helps prevent nightmares and anxiety dreams that could disrupt sleep quality. The storytelling tradition also serves important social functions within the broader community. John's reputation as a skilled storyteller makes his household a gathering place during long winter evenings, when neighbors might visit to share the warmth of the fire and the entertainment of his narratives. These community storytelling sessions reinforce social bonds and create shared cultural experiences that strengthen village unity. The stories themselves become part of the community's collective memory, preserving important historical events, cultural values, and practical wisdom that might otherwise be lost. The interaction between storyteller and audience also provides opportunities for cultural adaptation and evolution. John might modify traditional stories to reflect current events or local concerns, keeping the ancient narratives relevant to contemporary life. Audience reactions help shape the development of stories, with particularly popular elements being emphasized in future tellings, while less successful aspects are gradually eliminated. The medieval storytelling tradition that surrounded sleep also played an important role in the preservation and transmission of literary culture. Many of the great narrative poems, epic tales, and romantic stories that survive from the medieval period began as oral traditions shared during the quiet hours around hearth fires. Professional storytellers, known as minstrels or troubadours, traveled from court to court and town to town, sharing more sophisticated narratives that entertained noble audiences and urban populations. These professional entertainers brought stories from distant places, exposing local communities to broader cultural traditions and helping to create shared literary heritage across regions and social classes. The tradition of bedtime storytelling also provided opportunities for women to exercise cultural authority and influence. While formal education and literary composition were generally restricted to men, the domestic sphere of storytelling offered women a platform for sharing wisdom, preserving family history, and shaping cultural values. Agnes's role as household storyteller gives her significant influence over her children's moral and intellectual development. Through her careful selection and adaptation of stories, she helps shape their understanding of proper behavior, cultural values, and social relationships. This informal educational role represents one of the few areas where medieval women could exercise intellectual authority within their communities. The stories told by women like Agnes often preserve traditions and perspectives that might not be captured in formal written literature. Folk wisdom about child rearing, household management, and community relationships finds expression in these domestic narratives, creating a rich tradition of women's cultural knowledge that complements the male-dominated formal literary culture. The bedtime storytelling tradition also serves important psychological functions for both storytellers and listeners. For the storytellers, the regular practice of narrative sharing provides opportunities for creative expression, social interaction, and cultural contribution that enrich their lives and provide meaning beyond the daily routine of survival and labor. For the listeners, the stories provide entertainment, education, and emotional comfort that help them process the experiences and challenges of their daily lives. The regular rhythm of bedtime narratives creates stability and continuity that promote psychological well-being and family cohesion. The integration of storytelling with the natural rhythm of biphasic sleep creates optimal conditions for the absorption and retention of narrative content. The relaxed, receptive state that precedes sleep enhances the emotional impact of stories and improves the likelihood that their lessons and entertainment value will be retained and internalized. As the medieval night deepens and the storytelling draws to a close, Families like John's settle into their first sleep with minds filled with positive images and comforting narratives. The stories they have heard serve as a bridge between the conscious world of daily life and the unconscious realm of dreams, helping to ensure that their night's rest will be peaceful and restorative. The tradition of bedtime prayer represents another crucial aspect of medieval sleep culture that deserves detailed exploration. For medieval Christians, the transition from wakefulness to sleep was not merely a biological process, but a spiritual journey that required proper preparation and divine protection. Brother Benedict, whom we encountered earlier in the monastery, represents one end of the spectrum of medieval religious practice. His formal prayers follow the structured liturgical tradition of the monastic office, with specific texts prescribed for each hour of the day and night. But the prayer tradition surrounding sleep extends far beyond the monastery walls to encompass every level of medieval society. Even the simplest peasant family follows established routines of evening prayer that prepare them spiritually for the mysterious journey through the night. In Willem's cottage, the evening prayers begin as the family gathers around the dying fire. Willem leads his household through the basic prayers that every Christian is expected to know: the Our Father, the Hail Mary, and the Apostles' Creed. These familiar words, spoken in Latin, even though few present understand their literal meaning, create a sense of connection with the broader Christian community and invoke divine protection for the night ahead. The evening prayer routine also includes specific petitions related to sleep and dreams. The family prays for protection against evil spirits and demons that are believed to be particularly active during the night hours. They ask for peaceful sleep free from nightmares and disturbing visions. They request divine guidance through any dreams they might receive, hoping that their night visions will provide wisdom and insight for the challenges they face. Willem concludes the family prayers with the sign of the cross traced over each member of his household. This protective gesture is believed to create a spiritual barrier against malevolent forces, ensuring that each person is safeguarded by divine power throughout the vulnerable hours of sleep. The prayer tradition surrounding medieval sleep also includes specific invocations of saints who are believed to offer special protection during the night. Saint Michael the Archangel, the warrior who defeated Satan in the heavenly battle, is frequently petitioned for protection against demonic attacks during sleep. Saint Christopher, the patron of travelers, is invoked by those who must travel through the dangerous realm of dreams and visions. Saint Dymphna, the patron saint of those who suffer from mental illness and disturbing dreams, receives particular attention from individuals who struggle with nightmares or sleep disorders. Her intercession is sought to calm troubled minds and provide peaceful rest for those whose sleep is disrupted by anxiety, fear, or psychological distress. The integration of prayer with the natural rhythm of biphasic sleep creates additional opportunities for spiritual practice during the watch period. When Willem awakens naturally around midnight, he often spends part of his quiet time in additional prayer and meditation. The silence of the night and the peaceful state of consciousness that characterizes the watch make this an ideal time for deeper spiritual reflection. During these midnight prayers, Willem might reflect on the events of the day, examining his conscience for sins that need to be confessed and forgiven. He might offer thanks for blessings received, petition for help with particular challenges, or simply rest in the awareness of divine presence that seems more accessible during the quiet hours of the night. The practice of midnight prayer during the watch period reflects a sophisticated understanding of the relationship between spiritual awareness and natural sleep rhythms. The elevated levels of prolactin produced during these periods of night wakefulness create feelings of peace and tranquility that enhance receptivity to spiritual experience. Medieval spiritual writers often recommended the watch period as particularly favorable for mystical prayer and divine communion. The absence of daytime distractions, the natural quieting of mental activity, and the liminal state between sleep and full wakefulness all contribute to conditions that promote deep spiritual awareness. Lady Eleanor in her castle chamber follows a more elaborate but fundamentally similar routine of evening prayer. Her Book of Hours, illuminated with beautiful miniatures and decorated with gold leaf, contains the specific prayers prescribed for each time of day. The text is written in Latin, which she can read with reasonable proficiency, having received the education appropriate to her noble status. Her evening prayers include not only the standard Christian devotions but also specific petitions related to her responsibilities as a noble woman. She prays for the welfare of her husband and children, the prosperity of their estates, and the protection of all those who depend upon their family for leadership and security. Lady Eleanor's prayer routine also reflects the complex political and social relationships that characterize noble life. She prays for the king and the stability of the realm, for peace between rival noble families, and for success in the various military and diplomatic endeavors that affect her family's interests. The beautiful prayer book that Lady Eleanor uses for her devotions represents a significant investment of wealth and artistic resources. The creation of such illuminated manuscripts required the skills of scribes, artists, and bookbinders, making these books valuable possessions that were often passed down through generations as family heirlooms. The artistic beauty of these prayer books serves important spiritual functions as well as demonstrating social status. The beautiful images and decorative elements help focus the mind on spiritual realities and create an atmosphere of reverence and awe that enhances the prayer experience. Lady Eleanor's chamber contains other religious objects that support her evening devotions. A crucifix mounted on the wall provides a focal point for meditation on Christ's sacrifice. Candles blessed by the church create sacred light that transforms the secular bedroom into a space suitable for prayer. A relic of a saint, perhaps a fragment of bone or cloth associated with a holy person, provides a tangible connection to the supernatural realm. The integration of these sacred objects with the domestic space of the bedchamber reflects the medieval understanding that spiritual life cannot be separated from daily existence. The bedroom, where people are most vulnerable and most in need of divine protection, becomes a particularly important space for religious practice and spiritual preparation. The tradition of evening prayer also extends to the protection of children, who are considered especially vulnerable to supernatural dangers during the night. Parents carefully teach their children the prayers that will protect them during sleep, ensuring that even the youngest members of the family are prepared to invoke divine assistance when needed. Agnes, Willem's wife, takes particular care in preparing her children for sleep through prayer and blessing. She teaches them to recite simple prayers in their own language, ensuring that they understand the meaning of their petitions for protection and guidance. She traces the sign of the cross on each child's forehead, asking God to guard their minds against evil thoughts and disturbing dreams. The tradition of parental blessing extends beyond the immediate family to include servants, apprentices, and other dependents who are part of the household community. The paternal authority exercised by the head of the household includes spiritual as well as temporal responsibilities, making the evening blessing an important expression of protective care for all household members. The prayers surrounding medieval sleep also address practical concerns about physical safety and security. In an age when medical knowledge is limited and effective treatments for illness are rare, prayer often represents the primary defense against disease and injury. Families pray for continued health, for protection against plague and epidemic disease, and for healing for those who are already ill. The integration of prayer with folk medicine creates a comprehensive approach to health maintenance that addresses both spiritual and physical needs. Agnes might combine herbal remedies with specific prayers, believing that divine blessing enhances the effectiveness of natural treatments. The preparation of medicines is often accompanied by prayer, invoking God's assistance in the healing process. The tradition of evening prayer also provides opportunities for family unity and social cohesion that strengthen household relationships. The shared experience of prayer creates common bonds between family members and reinforces the values and beliefs that hold the community together. The rhythm of daily prayer also provides structure and meaning to the passage of time in ways that enhance psychological well-being and social stability. The regular observance of evening prayer creates predictability and continuity that help families cope with the uncertainties and challenges of medieval life. As the evening prayers conclude and the family settles into sleep, the transition from conscious prayer to unconscious rest is understood as a form of spiritual surrender. Medieval people believed that sleep was a time when the soul was particularly vulnerable but also particularly receptive to divine communication through dreams and visions. The practice of falling asleep while in a state of prayer was thought to increase the likelihood of receiving meaningful dreams and to provide protection against spiritual dangers during the vulnerable hours of unconsciousness. The last conscious thoughts of prayer and devotion were believed to influence the content and character of the night's dream experiences. This integration of prayer with the biological process of falling asleep reflects the holistic medieval worldview that saw no separation between physical and spiritual reality. Sleep, like all other aspects of human existence, was understood to have both material and spiritual dimensions that required appropriate attention and preparation. The morning prayers that conclude the night's rest complete the spiritual cycle that frames medieval sleep. As dawn approaches and the family begins to stir from their second sleep, the first conscious activity is the offering of thanks to God for protection during the night and petition for guidance and blessing for the coming day. These morning prayers often include reflection on any dreams that may have been received during the night. Significant or unusual dreams are remembered and discussed, with family members helping each other interpret their possible meaning and significance. Willem might share a dream about a successful harvest with his family, interpreting it as divine encouragement for the agricultural work ahead. Agnes might describe a vision of her deceased mother, understanding it as spiritual guidance for decisions she must make about household management. The children's dreams are taken seriously as well, with parents helping young minds understand the spiritual significance of their nocturnal experiences. The cycle of evening and morning prayer creates a framework that transforms medieval sleep from a merely biological necessity into a spiritual journey that connects the individual with divine reality and the broader Christian community. This transformation reflects the medieval understanding that all aspects of human life, including the most basic biological functions, can become opportunities for spiritual growth and divine communion when approached with proper awareness and preparation. The therapeutic traditions surrounding medieval sleep represent another fascinating dimension of this lost world. In an era before modern medicine, sleep disorders and disturbances were understood and treated through a combination of folk wisdom, religious practice, and the medical theories inherited from classical antiquity. Dame Marguerite, the wife of a prosperous grain merchant in the city of Bruges, suffers from what modern medicine would recognize as chronic insomnia. Her condition, which began several years ago during a period of particular stress related to her husband's business ventures, has persisted despite various attempts at treatment. In the medieval understanding, Dame Marguerite's sleep problems result from an imbalance in her bodily humors, specifically an excess of heat and dryness that prevents the natural cooling and moistening that should occur during sleep. This imbalance might be caused by emotional disturbance, improper diet, excessive mental activity, or spiritual factors that require both medical and religious intervention. Master Philippe, the physician who attends Dame Marguerite's family, approaches her sleep disorder with the sophisticated medical knowledge available in the medieval university system. His training at the renowned medical school of Salerno has provided him with access to both classical Greek and Roman medical texts and the advanced Islamic medical knowledge that has been preserved and developed in Spanish and North African centers of learning. Master Philippe's treatment plan for Dame Marguerite's insomnia begins with careful attention to her diet and eating schedule. He prescribes foods that are considered cooling and moistening in nature, such as fish, lettuce, and diluted wine, while forbidding heating foods like garlic, onions, and strong spices that might aggravate her condition. The timing of meals is also carefully regulated to promote better sleep. Dame Marguerite is instructed to eat her main meal of the day earlier in the afternoon, allowing more time for digestion before bedtime. Her evening meal is limited to light, easily digestible foods consumed at least 3 hours before retiring. Master Philippe also prescribes specific herbal remedies designed to restore the proper balance of humors in Dame Marguerite's body. A tea made from chamomile, lavender, and poppy seeds is prepared each evening to promote relaxation and drowsiness. Ointments containing cooling herbs like mint and cucumber are applied to her temples and wrists to reduce the excessive heat that interferes with sleep. The physician's treatment plan also includes recommendations for environmental modifications to Dame Marguerite's sleeping chamber. The room is kept cooler than usual, with windows open slightly to allow circulation of fresh air. The bed curtains are made of lighter fabric to prevent overheating. A bowl of cool water is placed near the bed to humidify the air and provide additional cooling. Physical treatments complement the dietary and environmental interventions. Master Philippe prescribes gentle massage with cooling oils to relax tense muscles and promote circulation. Warm baths infused with relaxing herbs are taken in the early evening, several hours before bedtime, to prepare the body for rest without generating excessive heat close to sleep time. The medieval approach to treating sleep disorders also includes significant attention to psychological and spiritual factors. Master Philippe recognizes that Dame Marguerite's insomnia began during a period of stress and anxiety, and his treatment plan addresses these underlying emotional causes. Prayer and meditation are prescribed as specific therapies for the mental agitation that contributes to Dame Marguerite's sleep problems. She is instructed to spend time each evening in quiet prayer and spiritual reflection, focusing particularly on prayers that promote peace and trust in divine providence. The household chaplain works with Master Philippe to provide spiritual counseling that addresses Dame Marguerite's worries and anxieties. Regular confession allows her to release guilt and concerns that might interfere with peaceful sleep. Spiritual direction helps her develop practices of prayer and meditation that promote mental tranquility. The medieval understanding of sleep disorders also recognizes the importance of social and family relationships in promoting healthy rest. Master Philippe advises Dame Marguerite's husband about ways he can support her treatment, including modifications to household routines that reduce stress and promote relaxation. Evening activities are restructured to create a more peaceful atmosphere before bedtime. Discussions of business concerns or family problems are postponed until daylight hours, replaced by gentle conversation, music, or quiet reading that prepares the mind for rest. The couple's bedtime routine is adjusted to include shared prayer and peaceful reflection that strengthens their relationship while promoting relaxation. The treatment also includes regular exercise appropriate to Dame Marguerite's social station. Gentle walks in the garden, supervised by her lady-in-waiting, provide physical activity that promotes natural tiredness without generating excessive heat or agitation. The exercise is carefully timed to occur earlier in the day, allowing the body to cool and settle before evening. Folk remedies complement the formal medical treatment. The household cook prepares special evening drinks containing honey and warm milk, believed to promote drowsiness through their naturally soothing properties. A pillow filled with dried lavender and chamomile is placed in Dame Marguerite's bed to provide gentle aromatherapy throughout the night. Gradually, through this comprehensive approach that addresses physical, emotional, and spiritual factors, Dame Marguerite's sleep begins to improve. The combination of dietary changes, herbal remedies, environmental modifications, stress reduction, and spiritual practice works together to restore the natural balance that promotes healthy rest. Her recovery illustrates the sophisticated understanding of sleep that characterizes medieval medicine, an approach that recognizes the complex interplay of factors that affect rest and addresses them through integrated treatment that considers the whole person rather than isolated symptoms. As our journey through the medieval night draws to a close, we return to the simple cottage where Willem and his family rest peacefully in their bed of straw. The fire has burned low, casting gentle shadows on the walls. The children sleep deeply, their breathing soft and regular. Willem and Margot lie quietly, having completed their natural cycle of sleep and wakefulness that has sustained their ancestors for countless generations. Outside, the first gray light of dawn begins to filter through the shutters. Soon, the family will stir naturally from their second sleep, rising with the sun to begin another day of labor and life. But for now, in these final moments of the medieval night, they rest in perfect harmony with the rhythms that have governed human life since the beginning of time. In our modern world of artificial light and digital distraction, we have lost touch with these ancient patterns of rest and renewal. The biphasic sleep that seemed natural to medieval people has been replaced by compressed, often inadequate periods of rest that leave many feeling exhausted and disconnected from their natural rhythms. Yet the medieval approach to sleep offers timeless wisdom about the importance of rest, the value of quiet reflection, the power of dreams, and the deep human need for peace in the darkness. As we face our own challenges with sleep and rest, perhaps we can learn from these distant ancestors who understood that the night hours are not empty time to be rushed through, but sacred space to be embraced. In the gentle darkness of the medieval night, surrounded by family, protected by prayer, and guided by ancient wisdom, our ancestors found not just rest for their bodies, but renewal for their souls. Their example reminds us that true rest comes not from the absence of consciousness, but from the presence of peace. The medieval night settles into its final hour, and in cottages and castles across the sleeping countryside, families rest in the profound quiet that comes only when humans live in harmony with the natural rhythms that sustain all life. If you enjoyed drifting through the medieval night with us, please give this video a gentle like and subscribe for more soothing historical journeys. I would love to hear in the comments when and where you're listening from, whether you're settling into bed, taking an afternoon nap, or finding peace in the quiet hours of your own watch period.